Today, we're exploring this really profound connection between empathy, creativity, and our own personal experiences. How does something like shared pain actually become healing art? Well, let's dive in and find out.
Okay, let's just start with this one line because it's what kicked off this entire story. Just listen to that incredible contrast, right? You've got boiling rage on one side and this tender ember of empathy on the other. That collision of two really intense, seemingly opposite emotions, well, that's the central mystery we're going to unravel today.
So, where does this collision of rage and love happen? It takes place in a hospital room, a place of crisis and separation. And it's right here that a totally life-altering experience starts to unfold, all seen through a cold, unforgiving pane of glass. I mean, just try to imagine this scene for a second. The author is standing there, completely powerless, watching his father fight COVID. He can't reach him, he can't comfort him, and that feeling of complete helplessness, it doesn't just turn into sadness at first. Nope, it explodes into a boiling rage. But here's the amazing part. Instead of just consuming him, that anger acts like a trigger. It unlocks this flood of memories, a whole lifetime of his father's small, almost invisible acts of love. You know, things like sewing uniforms late at night, or mending a torn kite, or just patiently tutoring him through tough math problems. These were all these quiet sacrifices that built this incredible foundation of love, and they all came rushing back in a single moment of crisis. So, okay, we have this deeply personal moment, this little ember of empathy. How does that expand outward? How does it become this powerful, creative force that can connect with the whole world? Let's take a look. And here's where we have to shift our thinking a little bit. Empathy isn't just a passive feeling of pity for someone. Not at all. It's an active, creative tool. You can almost think of it as a brush that lets us paint with the real, living colors of human experience. And you see this everywhere, throughout history, across cultures. I mean, think about Maya Angelou, turning the pain of injustice into poetry that heals. Or remember those murals that started popping up on hospital walls during the pandemic? Those were created by nurses who truly understood what their patients were going through. Or in Rwanda, where art literally helped stitch a nation back together after genocide. In every single one of these cases, a shared struggle is transformed into something universal, into art. So, how does this transformation from rage to creativity actually happen, on the inside? Let's turn inward now and explore the actual mechanics of empathy. Science actually gives us a really fascinating clue here with something called mirror neurons. These are basically pathways in our brain that fire up in response to seeing someone else's actions or emotions. It's like a neural echo. It's the biological reason we can literally feel what someone else is feeling. Pretty amazing, right? For the author, this internal mirroring was a total game changer. That memory of his father's patience completely rewired his own approach to conflict. Teenage defiance started to give way to humility. Sharp debates softened into gentle dialogue. All that raw energy that he once spent on arguments, he now channeled it into writing and creating. This choice, to respond with empathy instead of just reacting with more anger, it reminds me of this great story about the philosopher Nietzsche. Apparently, a merchant just starts shouting at him in the street one day, and Nietzsche just smiles and walks away. Why? Because he understood the man's rage wasn't really about him at all. It was just an overflow of other troubles. That choice to not react, that's a creative act all by itself. Now, of course, this idea isn't new, not by a long shot. So let's elevate our understanding a bit by looking at how some really deep philosophical and spiritual traditions have seen empathy for centuries. These traditions give us this incredible palette to work with. You've got Buddhist metta, or loving kindness, which is this idea of a love that gives without expecting anything back, just like the author's father. Then there's the Vedantic idea of unity, that sees all of us as connected threads in one single fabric. And just think of Gandhi. His leadership was built on his deep empathy for the struggles of his people, weaving their individual pains into a unified national movement. And this brings us to the final epiphany, the big aha moment. The author's realization there in the hospital wasn't just about his father. By truly understanding the full 360-degree view of one person's silent sacrifices, a window suddenly opened. It allowed him to see the hidden burdens that everyone carries, the neighbor, the shopkeeper, the stranger on the street. So we've gone from this heartbreaking personal story all the way to a universal truth. And that brings us to the final, and I think most important part of all this. What does this mean for you, for us? When you really boil it all down, empathy is a kind of sight. It's the ability to look past the surface, the angry outburst, the stoic face, the quiet exterior, and to see the reality that's hiding behind it. It reveals the love, the struggle, and the sacrifice that is so often just out of view. So the challenge, then, the invitation, is to weave this kind of empathy into your own life, because we are all creators in some way. Whether your canvas is a story or a business or maybe just a difficult conversation, you can choose to approach it with gentle hands and an open heart. You can transform any task into an opportunity for deeper understanding. Your art might be painting, it might be music, it might be how you raise your kids or the code you write. Whatever it is, I'll leave you with this one question to think about. What empathy shapes your art?